From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, July the 15th, 2024. 4 IDF soldiers were injured yesterday in a car-ramming terror attack. The incident took place near the Srugim military base in central Israel, where a driver, said to be a Palestinian man from East Jerusalem, rammed his car into people waiting at a bus stop there, including the soldiers. The IDF said an IDF officer and soldier were seriously injured. An IDF soldier was moderately injured, and a cadet in the officer's course was slightly injured. The terrorist was neutralized at the scene. And 4 IDF soldiers were wounded on Saturday, one seriously during a rocket attack by terror group Hezbollah on Kiryat Shmona in northern Israel. The 4 all-female soldiers were injured by falling shrapnel during interceptions of the rockets by the Iron Dome. The IDF said approximately 23 launches were identified crossing from Lebanon into Israel during the barrage on Saturday. Most were intercepted. Turning now to Gaza, where intense fighting continues between Israeli troops and terror group Hamas. Yesterday, the IDF said that it took out a major Hamas terrorist in an airstrike, saying in a joint IDF and ISA activity based on precise intelligence Saturday night, the IDF Southern Command and the Israel Air Force carried out a strike in an area where 2 senior Hamas terrorists and additional terrorists hid among civilians. The IDF said the airstrike eliminated the commander of Hamas's Khan Yunis brigade, one of the masterminds behind the October 7th massacre. The other terrorist targeted was the head of Hamas's military wing, Muhammad Deif, who planned and led the massacre. He has been targeted a number of times by the IDF. His fate at the moment is unclear. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu weighed in on the airstrike and the war against Hamas, saying, "I would like to assure you that one way or another, we will reach the entire Hamas leadership." And regarding the 120 hostages still being held by Hamas in Gaza now for 283 days, Netanyahu said, "They are our chief concern always and in every decision we make. We have a moral commitment to bring them all back home." As of now, he said, we have returned 135 hostages thanks to a combination of military pressure and a determined diplomatic stand. Only by continuing this double pressure will we achieve the release of the remaining hostages. The Times of Israel said today that Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer and its National Security Advisor Tzachi Hanegbi met today with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Washington. Spokesperson Matthew Miller saying that the 3 discussed the ongoing negotiations for a ceasefire and hostage agreement between Israel and Hamas, focusing on practical steps for closing the gaps between the sides. The Israeli Prime Minister also responded to the assassination attempt this Saturday in Pennsylvania on former President Donald Trump. Netanyahu saying he was shocked. He said this wasn't just an attack on Donald Trump. This was an attack on a candidate for the presidency of the United States. This was an attack on America. It was an attack on democracy. It was an attack on all the democracies. Jewish organizations responded as well. The Anti-Defamation League saying on Saturday there is no room in democracy for political violence, period. What happened today is tragic and should be condemned by all. The Jewish Federations of North America wrote, "Political violence is never acceptable. We mourn for the victims of this shooting and pray for the health of the injured." CEO of the American Jewish Committee, Ted Deutsch, said, "What a terrible day for our democracy. We must come together to condemn political violence. We are all Americans, whatever our politics." Well, we end our newscast today with the passing of an icon, Dr. Ruth Westheimer, pioneering sex therapist, best-selling author, and hit radio and TV personality. She was also a Holocaust survivor, saved when her family put her on the Kindertransport as a child. All of her family then perished in the Shoah. Dr. Ruth was also a trained sniper in the Haganah. She was beloved for her no-nonsense approach, her fabulous humor, and her vivacious spirit, and was a dear friend of JBS, forging a close relationship with JBS founder and president, the late Mark S. Golub, who interviewed Dr. Ruth back in 2013, where he asked her whether she blamed God for the Holocaust.
I still believe, and despite the fact of what the horror that have happened, I still do believe in that things will turn out better, period.
You make an extraordinary contribution in your unique way. And if in some way you have been driven to defy Hitler's attempt to destroy you and your family and your people, you have done it in a way that inspires us all.
Thank you very much. Toda rabah. Thank you.
JBS President Dara Golub, Mark's daughter, had this to say about her father and Dr. Ruth. Among the many thrills my father experienced through his work in Jewish media was his ability to meet and become close to larger-than-life figures whom he'd admired for a lifetime. Dr. Ruth was a towering example. As the media pioneer became a cherished friend, she generously agreed to share her zest for life, her work, and for the Jewish people so generously on JBS. Her Wisdom of Dr. Ruth series is now a treasure for the ages. Dr. Ruth is survived by her children and grandchildren, whom she spoke of during the interview.
I have 2 children. I now have 4 grandchildren.
Mazal tov.
That's why I'm telling you that Hitler lost and I won.
May her memory be for a blessing. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, July the 15th at 7, episode 8 of the hit Israeli TV series Srugim. And at 7:40, we pay tribute to the legacy of the late Dr. Ruth with episode 1 of her JBS series, The Wisdom of Dr. Ruth Westheimer. At 8, Abigail Pogrebin is joined by speaker, activist, and the executive director of Yaffed, Beatrice Weber, to talk about her organization's mission of improving secular education in Hasidic and Haredi schools. At 8:30, I sit down in our Times Square studio with the chairman of Yad Vashem Dani Dayan about the new complex being built at Yad Vashem, the mission to preserve the memory of the Shoah, his participation at the Tree of Life groundbreaking ceremony, October the 7th, and more. At 9, part 1 of Tal Kinan on L'chaim. At 10, Good Week Israel, which is also coming up next. And at 10:30, an encore of this newscast. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, July the 15th, 2024. I'm Teisha Bader. Am Yisrael Chai.